In this talk, I would like to take the third step in sharing a reflection on the rapid transformation of the disciples over the 50 days between the times of the Passion and Pentecost. The journey of transformation experienced by the first disciples is similar to the journey of recovery experienced by many people who follow a 12-step journey of recovery from addiction. The third step of this journey involves making a decision to surrender. In this step, the disciples make a decision to commit their lives and their wills to the care of God, who guides them now by the Holy Spirit. This surrender is usually described in the Bible as obedience, and in spirituality as abandonment to divine providence. I prefer to use the word surrender, as the disciples and many addicts have experienced bitter defeat and failure. There are plenty of examples of surrender in the Bible. Today I would like to take 4 short stories to illustrate how people can come to make this radical, life-saving decision. The first story concerns Job. In the Old Testament, Job is a good person who is also wealthy with a large, happy family. He is well respected by all and sundry. However, God allows him to be tested. So Job loses everything, first his family and wealth, and then his own health and friends. Instead of cursing God for inflicting all this suffering on him, Job utters his famous prayer in chapter 1, verses 21 to 22. Naked I came from my mother's womb, naked I shall return. The Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In his suffering, Job blesses God. Job knows that God gave him everything good in his life, and he remains grateful for it, even when it has been taken away. No matter how difficult he finds his circumstances now, he will not renounce this trust in God. In a similar way, the disciples have lost everything. They can no longer rely on the physical presence of Jesus to lead them. So they entrust themselves to the spiritual presence of the Holy Spirit to guide them. They surrender their lives and their wills to God in this way. The second story that I would like to recall is that of Queen Esther, also from the Old Testament. When the Jews have lost all hope and face imminent destruction, their last throw of the dice, so to speak, rests on Esther. She is queen to the king of Persia, but she has never revealed her religious identity to her husband. As she prepares to risk her life and force her way publicly into the king's presence in order to plead for her people, Esther makes her prayer to God in chapter 4, verses 17 to 19. As for ourselves, save us by your hand, and come to my help, for I am alone, and have no one but you, Lord. She adds, O God, whose strength prevails over all, listen to the voice of the desperate. Save us from the hands of the wicked, and free me from my fear. Esther finds the courage to enter the royal chamber and confront the king at the risk to her own life. She entrusts herself completely to God, who saves the people through her agency. Not only that, in her prayer, she tells God her true attitude to her worldly position as queen. You know that I am under constraint, that I loathe the symbol of my high position bound around my brow when I appear at court. I loathe it as if it were a filthy rag. Esther shows that she knows not only what she is choosing, but also what she is rejecting. She is choosing God and love of her people. She is rejecting personal glory and honor. The decision to surrender is always a choice. Edith Stein was inspired by Queen Esther in accepting her mission as a Jewish convert in a Carmelite convent under the Nazis. Since then she has become St. Teresa Benedicta of the Cross. The third story that I would like to reflect on is perhaps one of the most sacred stories in the whole Bible. It concerns the Annunciation, when the angel Gabriel appears to Mary in Nazareth. It is sometimes hard for us to fathom how the all-powerful God Trinity of Father, Son and Holy Spirit could make a plan to save our human race from destruction. What is more amazing still is that the success of this whole cosmic plan now hinges on the response of a teenage Hebrew girl who probably does not know how to read or write. After Mary has received the message of the angel Gabriel and pondered it in her heart in Luke's Gospel, chapter 1, verse 38, she replies, "Behold the handmaid of the Lord, let it be done unto me according to your word." Mary makes a decision to commit her whole self, body and soul, to God's plan and care. She surrenders to God's will. As a result, we are able to have this conversation about salvation. Mary's yes has helped save us all. The fourth story about surrender that I would like to reflect on is that of the widow who puts 2 coins into the temple treasury in Mark's Gospel, chapter 12, 41 to 44. When Jesus sees the widow acting in this way, he calls his disciples together so that they can learn from her example. He tells them, "Amen, amen, I say to you, that this poor widow has put in more than all the other contributors to the treasury, for they have all contributed from their surplus wealth, but she, from her poverty, has contributed all she had, her whole livelihood. The widow has shown that she depends totally and completely on God, and that she trusts in God's care. She gives all that she has to God." Jesus wants his disciples to do the same. These 4 short stories can show us how weak and fragile human beings make a radical decision to turn their lives and wills over to the care of God. Job demonstrates his commitment from within the experience of personal disaster and suffering. Esther is forced by circumstances to make this commitment to save her people. Mary makes her decision gently and easily for the whole human race. The widow offers to God all that she has to live on. In a certain sense, each of the 4 renounce what could be their own personal dreams and projects in order to give themselves over to God's dream and projects. This is the radicality of the decision called for once we realize that God is offering us a power and a freedom that we never imagined possible. But we have to open our hands to receive it. If we close our hands and try to hold on to anything else, we will not be able to receive the new gift that God is offering us. The disciples let go of the past and make a decision to give their lives and wills to the care of God in the Holy Spirit. Surrender of our will to God's care is the door to inner transformation and healing. In these 3 videos, Manresa videos that I have prepared, I have tried to show that the rapid transformation of the disciples in the 50 days between the Passion and Pentecost parallel the transformation that addicts undergo on the first 3 steps of the 12-step recovery process. Once the surrender to God's care is complete, recovery is assured. Nothing can stop it except ourselves. The transformation may take time, but now we are becoming the people we were always meant to be: sober, loving and other-centered. Peace and serenity come as God's gift to us.